Well, how's it going, everybody, and welcome to the channel. We are dedicated to providing answers to specific questions about personal finance so you can live a life of wealth and generosity. My name is David, and I am your host, and today we're going to dive into the 6 simple steps for getting out of debt fast. So stay tuned. The first thing that I want to share with you is that you are not alone. The debt journey is a scary one, though. It's one that is marked with a lot of chaos, stress, anxiety, fear. You might even feel humiliated and embarrassed that you're in this situation. And it wasn't that long ago that that's exactly where I was too. So I know how you feel. The important thing that I need to tell you is that starting right now, you are headed in a positive direction. You have found this video, you're using YouTube as a resource, you're trying to find your way to a good solution that will work for financial goals, and that's just fantastic. So pat yourself on the back, give yourself a little bit of credit, and try not to be so hard on yourself that you are in this situation, and instead focus on the solution that will get you across the finish line. So let's jump into those steps. When we get to step 1, the first thing that we need to do is we need to perform an audit of our books. We're going to do this to kind of clear out the crap or the excess stuff that's in the way, so we have a really clear understanding of exactly how we're spending money. A lot of us think we have a pretty good understanding of it, but that's all in our heads, and if we really actually sat down to look at it, we'd realize maybe we're not as efficient as we thought we were. And so I recommend you go ahead and you download all of your statements, from bank statements to credit card statements, and get them into Excel and look at the last full month that your household experienced. And that's a really good place to start. And what you're going to do is you're going to take those expenses and you're going to divide them into 2 categories: things that you keep and things that you toss. And this is going to give you a much more clear understanding of your financial landscape, and it's going to allow you to see, okay, these are the things that I really need to cut, so I have a much more clear path towards victory here. Now, it is the recommendation of this channel that you go ahead and you do the other 11 months of the year as well, because that's going to give you a fully comprehensive snapshot of exactly how your household is spending money. 1 month is good, 12 months is great. You can see things like biannual insurance and annual fees and things that pop up once or twice a year that you just didn't quite think about or may not have been in that first full month that you audited. And that's going to allow you to close some things that, oh my gosh, that's $299 a year and it hits every January. Let me close that so we don't experience that next year and it's not a surprise for us. It makes your life just that much simpler by taking those extra steps. And yes, it's probably going to be a little annoying, especially if you don't like dealing with numbers, and it will take a few hours of your time. But when I did this over a weekend, and I believe I had it wrapped up by Sunday, and I started Saturday night, and it was just fine. And I suddenly had a very clear snapshot of exactly where I was sitting, and I felt empowered to really take it to the next level and do something great with my finances. Step 2 is really about taking some action on those things that you learned from the audit. And this is where you're going to go back to the audit and all of the Excel spreadsheets that you downloaded, and you're going to close all of that unnecessary spending one by one until you don't have any excess spending left, and the only thing that you're dealing with are your necessities. And so this means that you might be closing things like subscriptions. You're definitely not eating out anymore. You're not going to bars and clubs anymore. You're not doing things like vacations or excursions because, yeah, they cost money, and it's just not feasible for you to do that right now while you're really trying to get out of debt. Debt is the thing that needs to be ever prominent in your mind. We must get out of this. Think of debt like it's eating a body part of yours, like a leg or an arm, and and you need to amputate that leg or arm so the rest of your body can survive, that is literally what debt is doing to your financial lifestyle. It's eating your financial lifestyle up. It's keeping you from having success. And so it's really, really important that you not only do the audit, but you really take action on what you learned from the audit. Cancel these things and get these things out of your life so you can really step into a lot more financial success. And I would encourage you to have a little bit of fun with this. Like, get an Excel spreadsheet started and tally up all of the things that you saved. And when you're done, you'll get a nice running total. And I can tell you that when I did this, I saved $1,200 a month. I had a $600 car payment, and I closed subscriptions, and I stopped eating out, and I did a few other things that were related to my lifestyle. And before I knew it, I had this awesome extra $1,200 sitting there that I could put towards debt every single month and get that kind of out of the way. Now, the purpose of doing step 1 and 2 is really about making a clear budget so you can get out of this mess. If you're not willing to make a budget, then you don't have a blueprint, and if you don't have a blueprint, you really aren't going to get out of this hole. So that kind of leads us right into step 3. And step 3 is make a monthly budget. And we really want to stress the monthly budget part of this. You don't want to do a weekly budget. You don't want to do an annual budget. You want to do a monthly budget because that's kind of right in the middle. It's the sweet spot. It works really, really well. It gives you a nice snapshot of what your month looks like, where your money's going, how you're spending money unnecessarily, things of that nature. Super, super important. Now, we recommend at this channel that you do what's called a zero-based budget, and that's basically where you're going to give every single penny an assignment or a task or a duty or a job, and you're going to put how much you make at the top of that budget, and then you're going to list all of your expenses below that, and you're going to actually zero out your budget, meaning that every single penny that you make has an assignment. And that's super important here because what you're going to be able to find is exactly how much you can put towards debt, which is really, really great because you're going to be on that debt journey here very, very shortly, really hitting that hard. And you want to make sure that you have an idea or a snapshot or a framework of how long this is going to take you to do. And so let's say this, let's use nice round numbers here or easy numbers and say that you've got $24,000 worth of debt, and because you have done the audit, you've taken action and you're making a budget, you can see that you have an extra $2,000 a month to throw at debt. Well, that means that you're going to be out of debt in just 12 months, which is super great. Now, obviously, the more money that you can throw at debt every single month, the faster it is that you're going to get out of debt. And that's really, really important. But you can't really do that without having a budget in place so you know exactly where you need to be and what you need to be doing. A budget is also going to show you if you might need to pick up a second job or take some overtime at work or fill in the blanks for whatever it is you've got. That's going to be something that you will have to decide upon, but the budget will be able to tell you that, and you can ultimately make the decision on what you want to do. It is this channel's recommendation that you don't take your debt journey past about 2 years. We find that you just kind of run out of steam after 2 years, and so once you've made your budget, you see exactly how much you're going to be able to put towards debt every month, and you look at exactly how much debt you have. If there is a discrepancy or a difference between that, where you basically are going to carry your debt journey into 36 months, 48 months, then I would be focusing very, very seriously on having yard sales, getting extra income any way you can, drive Uber, deliver pizzas, do anything that you can to boost that income so you can get out of debt fast. Before we jump into step 4 here, I want to discuss vehicles with you really quick. I want to go back to step 2 when you were taking action on all of the things you learned from the audit and you recognized maybe I have a little bit too much car in my driveway. And a good way you can tell is that if your car is worth more than 25% of your annual take-home pay, you might have too much car sitting in your driveway. Another way you can look at it is, can you pay that car off within about 18 months using the debt snowball? And if the answer is no, you also probably have too much car sitting in your driveway and it needs to be moved along. Now, if you find yourself in that situation, you need to pause right here before you get into step 4, and you need to save for what we call a freedom car. A freedom car is a car that's about $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. It's probably going to be a Honda or a Toyota. This is not going to be a nice car by any means, but it's going to be a pretty reliable car, and it will get you from point A to point B. And its job is to really lower the vehicle expenditures that you've got going on monthly so you can push as much money towards debt as possible. Now, when I did this, I went out and bought a $5,000 Honda Civic. It was about 13, 14 years old, had about 100,000 miles on it, but I got pretty lucky. It was owned by an old woman, and I just managed to kind of win the cream puff lottery. But you may find that you're picking up a car with 140, 150, 160,000 miles. And there's nothing wrong with that, but just keep in mind that you want to stay away from salvage vehicles, rebuilt titles, or situations where there's been a lot of car accidents. You just want something that starts and runs and goes. And you're not going to drive this car very long. You're probably going to drive it for about a year or two, maybe 2.5 years while you build up some savings. But for the most part, this is not going to be a huge part of your life, but will help you get a much better focus and direction on where you're headed with your finances. Step 4 is really all about saving for a starter emergency fund, and at this channel we recommend saving for about 1 month's worth of expenses. Now, you're going to want to go back to your budget and look and see exactly how much you're spending every single month, what you need to basically survive. And that is the number that you're going to put in your starter emergency fund. So that's going to be different for everybody. It's not a one size fits all. So you may be $2,500 while someone else might be $3,500, whatever it is. You might even be $6,000 or $7,000 depending on where you live and cost of living and such. And so your budget is really kind of your best friend here. Again, kind of your blueprint, the thing that you go back to when you need to reference how your money's doing and exactly what you need in order to make it. So once that starter emergency fund is in place, what you're going to find is that it's meant to kind of keep the chaos away from you, and it will. Because if you have a tire that blows out or a tooth that gets cracked or something else that surprises you and you're not expecting it, you have the cash to actually pull from in order to make this fixable instead of just an absolute nightmare where you're going to have to go back into debt. And we really, really don't want you to do that. It is the recommendation of this channel that you keep that emergency fund in a separate account, like a savings account, but it's something that you can access very, very quickly. Like you could log in, move the money over into your checking, and within a few seconds, you've got access to that money because you're going to need to access it in times of emergency, and it can't be sitting in something that's not very liquid. So let's jump into step 5 now. Step 5 is really where the rubber meets the road. This is where we're going to use the debt snowball method to get ourselves out of debt. And for those of you who are not familiar with the debt snowball, what you're going to do is you're going to list all of your debts, smallest to largest, by the amount that you owe, not the interest rate. And you're going to make minimum payments on all of your debts with the exception of the smallest debt. And that smallest debt, you're going to throw every single extra penny a month at that debt until it's absolutely annihilated. And once it is annihilated, then you move on and take all of that money and put it on debt 2 and annihilate that, and debt 3 and annihilate that, and debt 4 and annihilate that until you are completely out of debt. Now, we really like the debt snowball method here at the channel because we feel it offers a lot of psychological wins, because this is a big sacrifice that you're making. And when you pay off that credit card that's really kind of been annoying you for the last couple of years with high interest rates, you suddenly have a feeling of, yeah, well, maybe I can actually do this. And then you pay off the second one. You're like, yeah, I really can do this. This is really coming along. I'm really getting somewhere. It gives you that extra motivation and boost that you need to get across the finish line so you can really make a difference in your financial life. Step 6 is all about bringing some normalcy back into your life. And what you're going to do that is you're going to go back to your starter emergency fund and you're going to add 5 more months of expenses to that, giving you a 6-month emergency fund. And that's going to make you feel really good. It's going to just give you some relaxation and some joy in your life, because you're not going to have the added stress of, what am I going to do? I don't have enough money. What if this happens? What if that happens? All that kind of melts away, because you can say, no. Wait a minute. I've got an emergency fund, a full emergency fund. I've got $18,000, $20,000, $25,000 in that thing. I'm gonna be okay if anything happens to me. If a medical bill comes up or an HVAC unit goes out, it's kind of annoying and you're gonna have to spend the money and then of course save it back up again and put it in the fund, but you're not gonna have to go back into debt. And that's the most important part of this. Consumer debt is really what we want to tackle on this channel the most, because consumer debt is what hurts us the most. It has high interest rates. It can be absolutely devastating to your financial journey if you have too much of it. And so we just say, pay it off. Pay it off as quickly as you can. Use this method, use these steps to do that. And then at the end, you get to build this really nice, comfortable emergency fund that just helps you relax and give you a little bit of room to breathe, which is so super, super important. So now that you have a fully funded emergency fund in place, you're never gonna touch consumer debt again. As a matter of fact, you can close the book on your entire consumer debt journey. It's over, it's in the past. Now you need to be looking towards wealth. Wealth is the next step of this that involves saving and investing and being very purposeful and thinking about your family and thinking about a legacy. So that being said, you're going to open up a new book. And the first chapter of that book introduces you to generosity. And generosity is probably the kindest thing that you could ever offer back to the world. If you look at someone who is debt-ridden, they can't be fully generous because they don't have the time and they don't have the money. But when you have wealth, you have the ability to be super generous, not only with your time, but with your wallet. You can be patient, you can be kind, you can offer blessings to people that they could have never imagined. And the beautiful thing about it is, your family comes along for that journey. They get the blessing too. They get to see what happens when you pay $900 to help Susan get a new alternator on her car, or they get to see through the glass what happens when you leave a $400 tip at the Waffle House to that waitress who worked on Christmas because you know she really, really, really needed it. That's the beauty of generosity. It puts you in a frame of mind that completely changes who you are as a person, and your family gets to come along for the ride. So that's where I'm going to leave you today. If you like what you saw here, please like and subscribe. We're a new channel and it really does help us. If you have a story that you feel would help, leave it in the comments below. We absolutely love making videos for you guys, so please know that we always have you in mind, and we'll see you in the next video.